Xiu Xiu Ignore Grief album review. Let's chat about it. Hey friends, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning, here tonight to chat about this latest album from Xiu Xiu, California-based experimental rock, prolific legends, led by Jamie Stewart. And over the years, to say that I've had mixed feelings on Xiu Xiu would be the understatement of my year. Like, since the beginning, they have been one of the most prolific and genre-pushing acts in experimental rock, art rock, post-punk. And to be blunt, perfectly blunt, since the beginning, I have loved so much of Xiu Xiu's work, but I've also, hated so much of their work. I've always enjoyed the noisy and chaotic debut that is Knife Play. I also really enjoyed the very hushed but also really noisy A Promise. And in their very challenging discography, I've always thought Fabulous Muscles is probably the most direct and easy to take in thing that they've ever put out. Women as Lovers is so underrated, and I've said it since day one, and I'll say it again. Dear God, I hate myself, and always are always going to be my favorite Xiu Xiu projects. Hell, I even thought their Forget album, while it was fairly straightforward, probably a little too straightforward for some, I thought it had some really great stuff on there. But let me tell you, the music of Xiu Xiu is challenging, and that's me being nice. And they have come out with numerous albums over the years that I can't even sit through. Like, I've never been a La Forette guy. This album's way too light and inoffensive. For everything I loved about the Air Force, there was equal moments of just pure frustration here. And I'm sorry, Angel Guts Red Classroom, I hate this album so much. I can barely get through a quarter of it. It is so boring. I despised Girl with a Basket of Fruit when it came out, and I still am not that high on it. And this is all without their numerous collaborative projects, their other side ventures, their cover side ventures, like their Nina Simone side venture that they did. Also, their reimagining of the Twin Peaks soundtrack, which you should absolutely check out, because it is awesome. And the last time we heard from them was with their Oh No album, and it was an album of collaborations, their first full-length album with all collaborations. And there was some great stuff on there, but there was also some really underwhelming stuff on there. And leading up to this album, I was really underwhelmed with the singles. Oh, it's tough for me to even talk about this thing. I will say this, when Xiu Xiu are on, and they are certainly on for some tracks here, they can still put together a great atmosphere and something that really, sticks with you and gets under your skin. Take, for example, the Real Chaos Cha Cha Cha. This track starts off the album, and I think it's a great one. Now, this is a very tense, very stark album. This is the closest thing to a dark ambient album that Xiu Xiu have touched. Here we get a very noisy, abrasive backdrop with some very hushed, very intense, very whispered vocals. And if I didn't say that this wasn't very effective, I'd be lying. It certainly is. It gets under my skin in a big way, and it's really hard to describe what Xiu Xiu's really putting together on this album, but I'm trying my best. And it is very, very bleak. This is arguably one of Xiu Xiu's bleakest and darkest records, and that is saying something. Now, I do enjoy Esquerita, Little Richard, quite a bit as well. It's noisy, it's got that post-punk edge. This to me is a complete thought and really bridges the gap from where they've been for the last, 15 years to where they're at now. This is not Xiu Xiu messing around in the studio. This is concrete. It's hectic, it's manic, and much like a lot of Xiu Xiu stuff, it's really tortured too. And the whispered vocals that we get throughout this entire album, I would be remiss to say that they don't add a lot. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say that I would take those over anything Jamie Stewart does on this entire album. Adding some noisy samples and just a feeling that you have no idea where this track is going next. It really ends up sticking with you. As a matter of fact, I can't wait to listen to this track again. Now, of the two singles that dropped from this album, Maybae, Baeby actually did really grow on me quite a bit. It's got this cavernous, almost post-industrial feel to it that I actually really love. Like, you can't say that this album isn't tortured. Trust me, it is. Suicidal even at points. Massively depressive. You have been warned. Between the warped instrumentals and the whispered vocals, this is some dark shit, man. But for the moment, it's working. Border Factory may be the best track here. This for me works. This is sick. I love the hulking instrumental that we get here. It just instills this feeling of dread so well. Like, there's a very strong dark ambient feel to this album. We're gonna get to a lot of crap later, but for the moment it is really, really effective. It gets under my skin. This comes off like, I don't know, some like really twisted, revealing, repulsive cutscene from like, I don't know, like a Lost Silent Hill game. And Brothel Creeper is really good too. This atmosphere is thick with like 10 C's. And the whispered vocals continue to be just absolutely fantastic, just because I'm gonna get to it, but Jamie Stewart on this album firing on all cylinders. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I've been on a lukewarm streak with Xiu Xiu lately, and I think we've hit a low. 666 photos of nothing is more agitating than anything. God. Listen, I love campy bullshit, especially campy bullshit that just ends up being unnerving and strange at the end of the day, but this track is more like 4 minutes of nothing. This is studio fuckery with Jamie Stewart just whispering weird shit over it, and I think that we're kind of past this point. Xiu Xiu can do so much more on their worst day. This is amateur hour with Tarsier. We get more heady bullshit. Who ordered all this crap? And it fizzles out so quickly into nothing. And it's not even done effectively. That's right, we've gone from heady bullshit to nothing. Nothing that just kind of sits around and doesn't affect me at all. And like, we're going to talk about the new Full of Hell and Primitive Man album on this channel tomorrow. There's more dark ambient on that 30-minute release than this, a band that's been toying around with this for quite some time. 4 minutes. We get 4 minutes of nothing here, and Jamie Stewart just really doing nothing for me once again. He is really off his game here, and the rest of the track doesn't help. There's no drama. There's no tension. It just fizzles out. And worst of all, after hearing some of the stuff on this album, I've actually been going back to my least favorite Xiu Xiu albums and actually finding some things that I appreciate about them more. Parump has really underwhelmed me since it dropped as a single. I mean, I was worried about it from so far away, and I hate to say that about a single. But I have nothing to say about this track, and that I hate to say even more. This track just starts up, goes through it, washes away, and doesn't really move me at all. And I barely say that. And the drone elements that we get here, God, this is just an insult to drone music and drone metal altogether. Like, I will say this is obviously one of the darkest albums that Xiu Xiu has ever put out, arguably their darkest. But we get to Dracula Parrot, Moon Moth, and like, this is so toothless. Like, this has been such a dark album. Then I hear a track like this, and it's the equivalent of a 5th grader dressing up as Dracula for Halloween and his face teeth, like, I don't know, just dropping. I'm not happy with this album. I'm not gonna come back to this anytime soon. And for M as a finale, I thought this track was actually starting out pretty good. The first couple of minutes, I thought Jamie actually brought his A game. But after like 2 minutes, this track just completely falls apart. Like, what happened here? Like, I know I'm getting old, but like, God, this is amateur hour. And the rest of this 8-minute track, 8 minutes, just kind of wanders around, fizzles out slowly, stinks up the joint. It started out with some potential. This album actually had some potential, but it just fizzles out. This track is very mediocre, and so is this entire album. Like I said, this is easily one of Xiu Xiu's darkest and most intense releases, and that alone, should be exciting. That should be, a thing that you want to hear. But the product is just not here, man. I mean, Jamie Stewart did not bring his A game. Half of these tracks start with potential, but just fizzle out and leave me with no tension and no feelings of dread or anything like that. They're going for a dark ambient and drone sound on half of these tracks, and they are doing the sound no justice whatsoever. And sure, there's some great moments. There's some very effective moments that actually got under my skin. But in the Xiu Xiu discography, which is growing all the time, I do not think this is one of their better albums. I actually think this is one of their more lukewarm albums. I'm feeling a light 5 on this thing. But let me know what you all think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, friends.